Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Gao Wu. I went crazy with the animation system. Chapter 81. Compared to the reaction of everyone in the audience, Jiyu Chenshin was much calmer, because he himself is a top-level twin talent, so this is not unusual for him. Li Hanfang smiled slightly when he heard this, and his smile was somewhat meaningful. He naturally knew that such a large-scale attack would not be able to hurt the opponent, but he had no intention of hurting the opponent with this move. Still no reply. He instantly pulled out the Tang Dao stuck in the ground, and Li Hanfeng's figure turned into a golden lightning and rushed towards the opponent. Jiyu Chenshin frowned slightly, a little dissatisfied with Li Hanfeng's repeated neglect of him. In an instant, his spiritual energy exploded, and his sword intent soared directly into the sky, causing a wave of air around him. Ding! Jiyu Chenshin swung his sword to block Li Hanfeng's blade. A trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. He felt that the opponent's spiritual energy seemed to have been consumed a lot, and his strength was weaker than before. But he didn't think much about it. He just thought that the sea of fire just consumed the other party a lot, and instead spoke in a calm tone. Do you really think you can gain an advantage in close combat with your eyes? No matter how clear your eyes are, it's useless if your body can't keep up. As he spoke, Jiyu Chenshin's attacks became more and more fierce, and the speed of his sword became faster and faster. His swordsmanship was very sharp and his pace was very strange. He obviously has good swordsmanship and body skills. Coupled with his talent, his close combat ability is terrifyingly powerful. Li Hanfeng used various sword forms of Thunder Breath alternately, and with the insight of Sharingan, he was almost evenly matched with the opponent for the time being. Clang, clang, clang. The two sides kept fighting, and the swords collided with each other, making a harsh metal collision sound. However, as time went by, Li Hanfeng felt more and more strenuous, and he found that the opponent's attacks were getting faster and faster. Boom! The moment Li Hanfeng was repulsed by a move, Jiyu Chenshin's eyes suddenly focused, and all his sword intent and spiritual energy burst out, pouring crazily into the long sword in his hand. Buzz! The long sword suspended in the air kept making sword sounds, and terrifying power was accumulated in it. It's over, Jiyu Chen secretly thought in his heart, and at the same time, his sword pointed forward suddenly. One sword penetrates the clouds. Call out. The long sword cut through the air at an extremely fast speed. Li Hanfeng had not yet stood firm on his feet, and there was no way to avoid it at this time. His scarlet eyes turned crazily. Phew! The long sword passed directly through Li Hanfeng's chest. At this moment, a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He was now at the same place where he had previously released the powerful fire. Boom! Li Hanfeng's figure instantly turned into white smoke and disappeared. At the same time, a golden thunder light appeared behind Jiyu Chenshin, and the blade wrapped with electric light slashed directly towards the opponent's neck. At this time, Jiyu Chenshin's sword had left his hand, and it was too late to dodge, but he still looked calm and in control of everything, not caring at all about the attack coming from behind. Do you really think I wasn't prepared for your move? I've already seen through it. Boom! A terrifying aura descended, the soul-trembling aura that made everyone tremble slightly. Li Hanfeng, who was behind Jiyu Chenshin, paused for an instant, and the Tang sword in his hand could no longer cut even a single inch, because at this time, a slightly transparent sword spirit had pierced his chest. Wang! Jiyu Chenshin took the flying sword and turned around slowly, looking at Li Hanfeng with calm eyes and a calm voice. I told you, I've seen through it. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the corners of Li Hanfeng's mouth slightly curved again, and then the Li Hanfeng in front of him turned into white smoke with a bang again, and the Tang Dao in his hand also turned into a stone. Jiyu Chenshin's pupils suddenly shrank, and at the same time, a sound like the chirping of thousands of birds rang in his ears. Before he had time to think about it, all his aura, sword intention, and sword soul were instantly integrated into the long sword in his hand, and he turned around and swung. Sword. At this time, Li Hanfeng's hands were filled with rich black thunder and lightning, and thousands of birds chirped as the thunder and lightning beat. The palm filled with rich black thunder and lightning grasped the Tang Dao on the ground. Suddenly, the black thunder and lightning instantly covered the Tang Dao and formed a black thunder blade. Then his breathing rhythm began to change, his body leaned forward, and white mist rose from his mouth. Thunder release, lamenting thousand birds blade. Breath of thunder type of 1 thunderbolt flash super speed. Boom. As soon as he moved his footsteps, the ground instantly shattered. The speed boost and divine speed brought by the thunderbolt stimulation cells were superimposed on each other, bringing his speed to a whole new level. Even Examiner Zhao only saw a black light flashing in his peripheral vision. Ding! Almost at the moment Jiyu Chenshin turned around and swung his sword, the Chidori blade, densely covered with black lightning, fell on the opponent's long sword. There was no fierce energy collision, no powerful and fierce confrontation. Jiyu Chenshin felt happy when he held Li Hanfeng's Chidori blade, but the joy soon dissipated, because the latter's Chidori blade directly made a gap in his sword and stabbed him steadily, of the neck. Chidori blade, a move that is said to be impossible to parry. The Scarlet Sharingan stared at Jiyu Chenshin indifferently. Li Hanfeng responded to the other party's words for the first time, and his voice was as indifferent as the other party, without emotion. What did you say you saw through? Jiyu Chen was speechless and just held the sword in his hand. His fingertips were a little white due to excessive exertion and his arms were shaking slightly. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Didn't he already expect that the other party was a clone? Why is there another one? Yes, he didn't see when the other party created the clone. He just kept treating Li Hanfeng as a clone, always preparing for a sneak attack that would come at any time. He felt that the one who attacked him at the critical moment must be Li Hanfeng himself. But he never thought that there would be more than one clone. When exactly? How come there are 3 Li Hanfeng? How much ability does he have? Doubts filled his heart, making his face turn slightly pale. Everyone in the audience was also stunned by what a weird ability he had, and it seemed that Li Hanfeng had more than 2 kinds of abilities, right? What's going on with this guy? Everyone, including those at the top, had expressions of disbelief and incomprehension. Even Murong Qingying, who had always been indifferent and cold, showed a look of shock. At this time, Examiner Zhao appeared on the stone platform. Although he tried his best to suppress it, he could not hide his shock when looking at Li Hanfeng. When Li Hanfeng saw Examiner Zhao appear, he instantly dispersed the thunder and lightning on his body, sheathed his sword, turned around and walked off the stage. It's not that he wants to pretend, but he can't hold it anymore at the moment. The combination of Chidori and God's speed puts a huge burden on his legs. He now wants to go back to the spectator seat and sit down to rest. Examiner Zhao looked at Li Hanfeng's back for a while and then announced loudly. Li Hanfeng wins and ranks first on the freshman list. Jiyu Chenshin moved back 1 place and ranked second. The rankings of the top 10 freshmen are announced below. First place, Li Hanfeng, SH Base City. Second place, Jiyu Chenshin, Beijing Base City. Third place, Murong Qingying, Magic City Base City. Fourth place, Linmo, Shancheng Base City. Fifth place, Fu Yichen, Jinggu Base City. Sixth place, Pei Xian, Jinggu Base City. Seventh place, Huang Jingtian, Zhongcheng Base City. Eighth place, Chen Zhen, Guangdong Base City. Ninth place, Wang Zan, Black City Base City. 10th place, Luyin, Beijing Base City. The moment Examiner Zhao finished announcing the results, a mechanical synthesized sound suddenly sounded in Li Hanfeng's mind. Ding! The task of winning the martial arts exam has been completed, please collect the reward by yourself. Phew! Hearing this voice, Li Hanfeng took a long breath, and then a look of excitement appeared on his face. Finally finished. Perhaps because he had completed the task, Li Hanfeng always had a faint smile on his lips and listened absently to what Examiner Zhao said on the stage. The ranking competition for the top 20 freshmen has ended. I will send you away from here and leave the secret realm with other candidates at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. As he spoke, he flipped his palm and took out a bead. After crushing it hard, a mysterious force directly tore the space apart, forming a portal like a crack in the space. The scene on the other side of the door was blurry and unclear. You can leave now. Congratulations on your excellent results in this martial arts exam. While he was talking, Examiner Zhao's eyes glanced at Li Hanfeng, Jiyu Chenshin and other talented people from time to time. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiyu Chenshin stepped towards the door. On the surface, he looked as calm as before, but from the palms of his hands that he was holding on his chest and clenching tightly, it could be seen that he was not as calm as he showed. He was still a little unconvinced and felt that he had not used all his strength. He was not willing to be defeated like this, but he knew that a defeat was a defeat. If it were on the battlefield, he would probably be dead. He was not a person who couldn't afford to lose. He did not choose to continue challenging Li Hanfang hysterically. This time, he would give up the first place to the opponent, but if he had a chance to face off next time, he would not lose again. When everyone saw Jiyu Chenxin's leaving figure, they all stood up and walked towards the door. Li Hanfang and Murong Qingying walked side by side at the end. See you tomorrow. Li Hanfang is in a good mood now, with a smile on his face all the time. Compared to his usual lazy posture, he actually looks a little sunny now. After saying hello, Li Hanfang did not wait for the other party's response. He knew that the other party would not respond, so he took the lead and entered the portal and disappeared. Murong Qingying watched Li Hanfang disappear indifferently, and after a while, she lightly lifted her jade feet and left. After leaving the battlefield, Li Hanfang was teleported to the place where he entered, so he directly found the ruined small building where he had rested and repaired it. When the sky is about to darken, Li Hanfang opened his eyes, and there was a flash of lightning in his eyes. Then he gathered his breath and slowly stood up. He moved his body at will. He felt that he was almost recovered, and opened his personal panel with a thought. Race: human. Age: 17. Talents: Breath of Thunder, Magatama Sharingan. Level: Extraordinary Level 4. Skills: Breath of Thunder, 4 Swords, Shadow Clone Technique, Fire Release, Fireball Technique, Fire Extinguishing, Substitution Technique, Transformation Technique, Psychic Technique, Rashomon, Thunder Release, Chidori. Task: the top scorer in the martial arts examination completed. Phew, the kill value has been cleared again, but the Chidori and the transformation technique really made a great contribution this time. Li Hanfang didn't expect at first that using Chidori with spiritual energy would directly turn into the black lightning of weeping Chidori, but he soon figured it out. The Lamenting Thousand Birds essentially uses the power of the curse seal, and the curse seal is actually the magic chakra that is integrated with natural energy, and aura is natural energy. In this way, Li Hanfang can naturally use the black Chidori directly. Thunderbolt stimulates the growth of body cells, and combined with divine speed, my burst will instantly increase to a level. It can also be integrated with other sword types, and I can use the Chidori blade to perform the Thunder Breath sword type. Li Hanfang kept thinking and simulating various fighting methods in his mind, and also estimated his current strength level. Finally, he raised his head and glanced at the gradually darkening sky, and then at the 0 kill value. It's better to find a place to test it out. As for the mission rewards, we'll think about it after we get back. As soon as he thought of it, Li Hanfang identified the direction and flew directly towards the forest at high speed. 9 o'clock the next morning. Li Hanfang was awakened by a buzzing sound. He instantly opened his scarlet eyes, half crouched to gather strength, and his right hand had already climbed onto the handle of the knife. His scarlet Sharingan kept scanning the surroundings. Then he noticed a fly kept turning around him, buzzing as its wings vibrated, and then flew away directly into the distance. Li Hanfang was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted and followed quickly. It seems that I was really tired last night, and I actually slept until now. SH Base City Number 1 Middle School. Today is the day when the martial arts students return, so all the teachers have gathered in the school square, and a light curtain is emerging on the stage, and students are constantly coming out of it. Every student who walks out will take off the watch strap on his hand and hand it to a teacher who is responsible for collecting records, which records the scores of the candidates. After the last candidate walked out, another 10 minutes passed before Li Hanfang's figure ran out of the light curtain. After taking off the watch strap and handing it to the teacher in charge, he walked towards the class. Madman, here, why did you come out so late? Before Li Hanfang walked in, Cao Yumeng, who spotted Li Hanfang, started shouting loudly. This shouting immediately attracted the attention of nearby students, and their eyes fell on Li Hanfang. They were all a little curious about what scores Li Hanfang, who had awakened his S-level talent, could get. Okay, stop yelling. Li Hanfang had a black line on his forehead and said helplessly as he approached Cao Yumeng. At this time, the boss came over, patted Li Hanfeng on the shoulder, and said with a smile. You kid, you've hidden it well enough. Even I, the class teacher, didn't realize that you were so strong. Hearing this, Li Hanfeng showed a hint of surprise on his face. Old Ban, can you see what's going on inside? Lao Ban nodded. But we won't be able to see you after you enter the freshman rankings. How about it? Did you enter the top 10? Li Hanfeng understood what was said. After hearing Lao Ban's question, he smiled and nodded in affirmation. Lao Ban was overjoyed and wanted to continue asking for details, but Cao Yumeng's excited shouts rang in his ears. Damn it, madman, are you in the top 10 of the freshman list? Although Cao Yumeng knew that Li Hanfeng was very strong, he didn't know how strong he was. The top 10 results in the freshman list really shocked him. This was the top 10 in the country, not the top 10 in the base city. Cao Yumeng shouted loudly, and Li Hanfeng could already feel the shocked, envious, jealous, and questioning eyes around him falling on him. Don't shout so loud, I don't want to be watched. Li Hanfeng said something urgently to Cao Yumeng. Feeling more and more eyes on him, he immediately found an excuse to run away. Old Ben, fatty, I have some things to deal with and I'll leave first. After saying that, his eyes began to scan around the position of the second class, but Zhou Xian was not found. Are you leaving? But where can you run to? Li Hanfeng sneered in his heart. It was time to deal with the Zhou family's affairs next. The martial arts test results will be announced tomorrow, and the Kewu building should not get involved by then. Li Hanfeng turned and left, and the fat man's shout came from behind. Hey, madman, where are you going? Why don't you ask me about my grades? Hey. After Li Hanfeng returned home, he took a comfortable hot bath to relieve his physical and mental fatigue. When he came out of the bathroom, he felt refreshed. Sitting on the sofa in the living room, Li Hanfeng thought for a long time before taking out his communicator and making a call. After the communicator rang a few times, a clear female voice came from the other end. Junior Han Feng, is the college entrance examination over? Well, I just got home. Hearing this, Zhang Xinren on the opposite side pondered for a moment and then asked softly. How about the results of the college entrance examination? Li Hanfeng said in a calm voice. If nothing else happens, I will be number 1 on the freshman list. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Xinren's pupils shrank and the decibel level of her voice increased a lot. Did you win over that Jiyu Chenxin? Li Hanfeng was a little surprised. You know him. Zhang Xinren calmed down, relieved her shock, and then said after a long time. I don't count him as an acquaintance, but I know him. He is a high-level, highly adaptable twin talent holder. Rumor has it that the three swords suppressed all the geniuses in this generation of Jingwu Base City. I didn't expect you to be able to beat him. I really underestimate you, Junior Han Feng. Li Hanfeng didn't expect that the other party actually knew about Jiyu Chenxin, but he didn't say anything more and replied in a calm tone. It's just a fluke, Senior Sister Xinren, the Zhou family's affairs. Zhang Xinren knew what Li Hanfeng meant by making this call and said straightforwardly. The Zhou family's affairs have nothing to do with Kewu Tower, and I don't know anything about you and the Zhou family's affairs. Thank you, Senior Sister Xinren, I will remember this favor. The meaning of the other party's words is obvious. She will suppress it at Kewu building. If something happens to the Zhou family, she will not expose her grudges with the Zhou family. You don't have to be so open-minded, I am your senior sister after all. There was a smile in Zhang Xinren's tone, and she realized that she had underestimated this Junior Han Feng before, and he could actually defeat the monster in the capital base city. It's really a 3-day separation that makes me look at each other with admiration. After the two casually chatted for a few more words, Li Hanfeng hung up the phone. Sitting on the sofa, Li Hanfeng kept thinking about his next move. It's definitely not possible to go directly to Kewu building to ask for someone, so we need to find out the other person's residential address first, and then we need to find out the other person's strength. After thinking for a moment, Li Hanfeng thought about Deacon Hao of Lingbao Pavilion. After the results are announced tomorrow, he, the top scorer in the martial arts examination, will ask him for some information. I believe that the other party will be happy to answer his questions. Thinking like this, I already had an idea in my mind. If I really couldn't go to my old classmate for help, there must be Zhou Xian's family's residential address in the school. Then it's a matter of strength. Li Hanfeng thought, and the system panel appeared in his sight. After clicking on the task panel, he looked at the completed task of being the top scorer in the college entrance examination and fell into deep thought. His eyes moved slightly, as if he had made a decision, and then his thoughts moved. Receive award. Ding. The host has received 10,000 killing points. Please choose a weapon in the anime world. The world of death Zanpakuto Flowing Blade Wakahara. Ding. The reward has been collected successfully, please check it in the warehouse. Li Hanfeng ignored the system's voice, and with a thought, an ordinary-looking sword appeared in his hand. It had a dark purple handle, an oval blade, and a brown scabbard. This is just the shallow form of the Zanpakuto. After the initial solution, this Zanpakuto, known as the strongest fire-type Zanpakuto in the world of death, will initially reveal its ferocious form. The condition for the first solution is to communicate with the Zanpakuto. After gaining recognition, you will know the name of the Zanpakuto in the liberation language, and release its power through the liberation language, causing the Zanpakuto to change its form. But Li Hanfeng knew the liberation words of the Zanpakuto in his hand. His right hand climbed onto the handle of the knife, and feeling the power coming from the blade, Li Hanfeng's eyes narrowed and he spoke in a solemn voice. Everything in the world will turn into ashes. In the middle of shouting, Li Hanfeng's voice suddenly paused, his eyes swept around, cold sweat broke out on his forehead, he almost burned the inheritance left by his parents to ashes, what a danger. Thinking of the power of Liubianruahuo after its release, Li Hanfeng felt that it would be safer to try the knife at Zhou's house. The reason why he chose Liubianruahuo was very simple. This sword could greatly enhance his group attack ability. Moreover, he did lack a good sword. The Tang Dao in his hand could hardly keep up with his level. First to the sword meditation. If you can get the approval of Lu Ren Ruohuo, then the power you can exert will definitely be stronger. The rest will be done after the results of the martial arts test come out tomorrow. With this thought in mind, Li Hanfeng returned to the room with the blade Ruohuo and sat cross-legged on the ground with the blade across his knees, carefully feeling the shape, structure, material and other information of the blade. Gradually, Li Hanfeng fell into a state of trance. Modu Base City, Mowu Extraordinary Academy, a conference room. At this time, the place was full of people. A mature woman with good looks and charming temperament was standing in front of the projection screen and was talking seriously. Those people I mentioned just now are all freshmen with better talents in this martial arts exam. We can fight for them appropriately. For the following ones, we will definitely try our best to fight for them. The photos on the screen began to slide, and finally settled on a young man with handsome features, fluffy hair, half-closed eyes, and a lack of energy. This person's name is Li Hanfeng. He is a student from the number 1 middle school in SH Base City, Level 4 Base City. He is also the top scorer in this martial arts exam. Compared with others, he has a clean background and no power disputes behind his back. He is a commoner evildoer. His talent is so strong that even Ji Yu Chenxin was defeated by him, and he is suspected of having a variety of talents. Quote. After a pause, she continued. We must fight for this person. With him here, we have a high chance of overpowering Jingwu in this freshman exchange meeting. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement, and then the man sitting in the fifth seat on the left side of the conference table suddenly stood up and said, Director, someone has already contacted this Li Hanfeng. His voice was a little nervous, and he didn't dare to look at the mature woman. The woman called the director narrowed her eyes and asked with a hint of danger in her tone. Who is it? I don't think I have decided on the person to contact yet, right? Feeling the dangerous aura emanating from the other party, the man's voice became even more anxious. Yes, it was recommended by Instructor Lan Juro. He is probably on the way now. Hearing this, the mature woman's anger turned into shock, and then she spoke helplessly in a low voice. What kind of trouble is she going to make? A similar scene occurred in the admissions offices of major colleges and universities, where Li Hanfeng was basically the first target. It's been a long time since a student with a clean background, monstrous talent, and the top scorer in the martial arts exam has appeared. They don't want to give up, and they all decided to pay a big price to bring the other person to their school. Li Hanfeng, who didn't know all this, kept meditating until nightfall. He didn't open his eyes until he felt hungry. It's true that with my current strength, it's still too hard for Lu Ren Ruohuo to respond. Take your time. After getting up, he picked up the communicator on the bed and checked it. He felt the vibration of the communicator during the sword meditation, but he ignored it. After seeing the phone call and text message from the head teacher, Li Hanfeng probably knew what was going on. Clicked on the message. You brat, remember to report to school on time tomorrow. There are many college admissions tutors calling to see you, so be prepared. After reading it, Li Hanfeng was a little surprised. He thought he would be asked to attend the admissions meeting tomorrow. Unexpectedly, a tutor had already come to him and saw that the results had been made public internally. He didn't pay too much attention. He had already promised Zhang Xinren to go to Mowu Extraordinary Academy, so he didn't have any entanglement. He put down the communicator and wanted to cook something to fill his stomach. As a result, the communicator he had just put down rang again. Seeing that it was Cao Yumeng, Li Hanfeng immediately guessed the purpose of the communication and clicked to answer it. Hey madman, come over and eat. I'm waiting for you. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening when Li Hanfeng came back from Cao Yumeng's house. The exhaustion of the past few days of assessment made Li Hanfeng decide to go to bed early today. After returning to the room, he fell asleep. After thinking for a while, he turned his hand and took out the blade Ruohuo and put it beside him. After doing all this, Li Hanfeng fell into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, bang bang bang, madman, go to school, the admissions meeting is today, don't be late. Cao Yumeng's roar came from outside the door. Li Hanfeng, who had rarely slept peacefully, was woken up and reluctantly got up to wash up and went to school with Cao Yumeng. While walking on the road, the two of them chatted while eating the breakfast buns prepared by Cao's mother. Fat man, how did you do in the exam? Judging from your mood, you should have done well in the exam, right? Yo, you finally remembered to ask about this. I thought you were busy and forgot about it. Li Hanfeng didn't care about the other party's weirdness. Who made Fatty Cao yell so loudly yesterday that he had to run away first? And Cao's father and mother, who knew his results last night, were too enthusiastic and asked about this and that. He didn't have the chance to ask. The score should be pretty good. 821 points. He said it was okay, but he couldn't hide the pride on his face. He kept squinting at Li Hanfeng, who clearly looked like a kid waiting for praise, a fat man. Hearing this, Li Hanfeng thought quickly. The minimum score in the ranking competition is 2,300 points. Based on this calculation, a score of more than 800 points should not be able to enter the freshman list, but with this score, there should be no problem in ranking among the top 5 in the base city. Thinking like this, he said a serious compliment. It's very good. It ranks among the top 5 in the base city. Really? No way. You're still crazy, you're awesome, you're in the top 10 of the freshman list. Before Cao Yumeng could say anything, he suddenly saw Li Hanfeng stop with a serious look on his face, and there was faint thunder and lightning beating on his body. What's wrong, madman? Although Cao Yumeng didn't know what was going on, he quickly came to Li Hanfeng's side and opened up a fighting stance. Fat man, you go first, it may be a bit dangerous this time. Li Hanfeng opened a pair of scarlet eyes, with 3 black magatama spinning crazily in his pupils, which he had exchanged for the kill points from the mission reward last night. Madman, Before he finished speaking, a pair of scarlet 3 magatama Sharingan eyes were reflected in his pupils. In just a moment, he felt that his consciousness was a little blurry, and his whole mind was filled with a scarlet pupil with 3 black magatama. Fat man, I'm sorry. Normally I would tell you that you would never leave. Li Hanfeng looked at Cao Yumeng, who was running very fast towards the school. After murmuring in his heart, his scarlet eyes began to move crazily, scanning the surroundings at an extremely fast frequency. The blade-like fire had already appeared in his hand. Come out. You exposed your breath on purpose just to make my friend leave, right? Just before, Li Hanfeng felt a terrifying spiritual pressure. Although it was only for a moment, it seemed that his feet were stuck in the quagmire, and cold sweat broke out on his back. He knew that this kind of existence was definitely not something he could defeat now. When he didn't know the other party's intention, Fatty had to leave. Once he was an enemy, it was better to die alone than to die here. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The sound of high heels hitting the ground clearly came from behind, but it seemed to ring in my heart. A terrifying sense of oppression came over me. Li Hanfang was startled, and while turning around quickly, his right hand was already tightly clenched on the handle of Liu Bian Ruohuo. He leaned forward, his breathing changed, and he was ready to attack at any time. The scarlet Sharingan condensed slightly, and a sexy woman with a plump figure, long hair and red lips was walking towards him step by step with enchanting steps. Every step he took was like stepping directly on Li Hanfang's heart, and the terrifying pressure had caused a large amount of cold sweat to break out on his forehead. My little brother reacts very quickly, but it seems that his strength is a bit behind. The sexy and seductive voice, coupled with the enchanting and graceful figure, can drive every man crazy. Li Hanfang's eyes were cold and there were no other distracting thoughts at all. The pressure this woman brought to him was too strong, and the other party's spiritual energy reserves seemed to be a bit too much, right? He was afraid that if he was distracted for a moment, his head would be picked off and thrown aside. Who are you? Why did you come to me? And, don't go any further. Otherwise. Li Hanfang did not choose to take action immediately. The other party did not exude murderous intent. He wanted to ask the other party's purpose first, but he did not dare to let the other party get too close, lest he would not have time to react if the other party made a sudden move. Kiki. Otherwise, what else can you do? Little brother. The enchanting woman was unmoved at all and continued walking towards Li Hanfang, giggling. Scarlet eyes condensed, white mist hissed around his mouth, veins on his arms popped out instantly, and the ground suddenly shattered. Li Hanfang did not hesitate and took action with all his strength. Zhuzhuzhi. A harsh sound like the chirping of 1,000 birds sounded, and the blade was suddenly covered with rich black thunder. Li Hanfang's face looked even more indifferent under the light of thunder. Thunder release. Lamenting 1,000 birds blade. Breath of thunder type of 1 thunderbolt flash super speed. Aha! All the sounds disappeared, as if the world had fallen into a still state, and there was only a flash of black lightning in the field. Boom! The terrifying energy exploded and spread crazily around. The buildings on both sides of the street began to shatter and collapse, and screams began to be heard nearby. You must know that it was daytime, and although there were very few people on this street, such a big movement was impossible. No one found out. And at the center of the energy explosion, I saw that the Chidori blade that was originally slashing at the opponent's neck was held firmly by 2 slender white fingers. The other party just took a small step back. Li Hanfang's scarlet pupils suddenly shrank, and a chill spread crazily in his heart. Zhuzhuzhi. The piercing sound like 1,000 birds singing in unison continued to sound, but 2 slender fingers made it impossible for the bird to fly no matter how hard it struggled, and could only make a piercing cry. Li Hanfang's pupils shook violently. What a terrifying strength. This kind of strength cannot be found in the extraordinary realm, it is a strong person above the extraordinary. The aura crazily poured into the blade Ruohuo in his hand, causing the black thunder above to become more violent. Zhuzhuzhi. The blade that was originally held firmly was slowly advancing. A hint of surprise appeared in the eyes of the enchanting woman, and then the smile on her lips became stronger. Little brother. Work harder. Try harder. Li Hanfang ignored the other party. Under the observation of Sharingan, the other party's body was covered with a layer of spiritual energy. The intensity of this spiritual energy was very high and was not on the same level as him. The black thunder transmitted to the other party was directly offset. It caused no substantial damage at all. It was probably just some slight paralysis of the body at most, which did not affect the opponent's movements. Li Hanfang's eyes flashed. He released one palm and turned into holding a knife with one hand. His left hand began to quickly form strange seals. Si Wei Shen Hai Wu Yin. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. The 2 of them are very close at the moment, which is equivalent to releasing each other face to face. The enchanting woman's eyes flashed when she saw Li Hanfang's chest bulging and his fingers clasped in front of his mouth. She twisted the fingers holding the blade and flicked her fingers. Dang! Boom! Li Hanfang felt a huge force coming from the blade, and his body couldn't help but lean back. The fireball that was originally intended to be sprayed at the enchanting woman was sprayed directly into the sky. Li Hanfang instantly used his strength to turn backwards, widening the distance between the 2 parties. When he looked up, he found that the opponent's figure had disappeared. His pupils shrank, and he almost instinctively turned around and slashed with his sword. Ding! This time the opponent did not hold the blade again, but flicked it again. Li Hanfang retreated again, but the scarlet Sharingan was staring at the opponent. After stabilizing his body, Li Hanfang found that the other party had no intention of taking action again, but looked at him with interest, and said again with hot red lips. "Little brother, is this all you can do? This is inconsistent with the information I got. Hiding it and tucking it in later will hurt you." Li Hanfang frowned slightly and said in a cold voice. "Who are you?" He was very confused. It was normal for the other party to come to him and know his information, but there was no murderous intention in the other party. Was he here to play with him? "Kiki, let's do this, little brother, if you can hurt me, even if it hurts my clothes, how about I tell you?" The enchanting woman did not answer Li Hanfang's question directly, but covered her mouth and smiled, her laughter full of provocation. Li Hanfang was speechless as he looked at what the other party was wearing. The upper body was a black bra with a red leather jacket, and the lower body was denim ultra-short shorts, revealing long white legs. "It's not easy to injure just this little fabric. I actually don't want to know that much. I would rather go back to school than this." Li Hanfang thought about it again and again, but still felt that the strength of the two parties was not of the same level, and there was no point in taking action. Even if the other party had no intention of killing him, who could say anything about beating him? The enchanting woman was startled when she heard this. She didn't expect that the other party would answer like this, and then she started giggling again. "Little brother, my sister is very dissatisfied with your answer." The enchanting woman with a smile on her face suddenly turned cold at the end of her words, and her figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Li Hanfang's pupils shrank, and his body turned into lightning and flashed to the side. Boom! The long, snow-white legs stepped hard on the ground, and suddenly the surrounding ground cracked like a spider web. How come this woman can change her face faster than she can turn the pages of a book? Li Hanfang, who dodged in time, cursed in his heart. He didn't know what happened to this woman, so he suddenly attacked so harshly. Without thinking much, the golden thunder light on his body pulsed, and the black Chidori blade in his hand screamed again. The scarlet Sharingan turned crazily, his eyes locked on the opponent's body, not daring to break away at all. The enchanting woman who wanted to take action suddenly frowned and glanced around, as if she felt something, and made a handprint on her chest with her slender fingers. A special energy spread to all directions in an instant, wrapping Li Hanfang's figure almost instantly, and then the two of them disappeared directly on the spot without a trace. Not long after Li Hanfang and the two disappeared, more than a dozen powerful auras suddenly appeared in the field, and then figures began to appear in the field. The first person was Ozan, the principal of No. 1 Middle School, and beside him were the tutors sent by major universities to contact Li Hanfang, plus the vice principal Li Xingwu, a total of 12 people. Ozan glanced around the mess in the field and frowned fiercely. There was no blood left and no trace of Li Hanfang. "Were you kidnapped and left?" Everyone present frowned slightly when they saw this scene. In this case, Li Hanfang was probably in danger, and then they closed their eyes and felt, as if they wanted to sense the direction in which the other party was leaving. "This is the breath of the domain, and I seem to feel familiar with this breath." A very solemn voice sounded, and everyone was shocked when they heard the words, and looked at the middle-aged man who spoke. He has strong features and wears a special badge on the chest of his clothes with the word, Beijing, printed on it. "Are you sure it's the aura of the domain?" Ozan asked with an ugly expression. At this time, Li Hanfang only felt that after a moment of trance, the environment around him changed. When he looked closely, his pupils suddenly vibrated, and he found that he had arrived near the suburb where he had fought the man in black last time. What ability is this? Space talent, or some other special talent or means? Li Hanfang was shocked with joy, but his face remained indifferent, showing no unnecessary expression. "Okay, no one will bother you here for the time being, we can have fun, cluck." After the words fell, Li Hanfang suddenly felt a chill coming over him, and his body that had been tense suddenly jumped forward, almost without any thought, and the lightning all over his body surged. Breath of thunder, 3 types gathering mosquitoes into thunder. Golden thunder and lightning ripples were mixed with black lightning, the sound of buzzing mosquitoes was mixed with the chirping of birds, and a layer of rippled sword light spread rapidly around. The enchanting woman paused slightly, turned around and swung her legs with long whip-like legs. Her legs were wrapped with a special spiritual energy, and she hit the thunder ripples hard. Boom! The blade came into contact with the opponent's long leg, and a huge force directly flew Li Hanfang away, stamping hard on the building nearby. Before Li Hanfang came down, the enchanting woman had already appeared in front of him. Slender white palms caressed Li Hanfang's cheek. The voice coming out of his red lips lost the smile before and began to become a little colder. There was a faint murderous intention coming out of him. Little brother, you are not good. However, the moment she exuded a hint of murderous intent, she felt a dangerous aura spreading from Li Hanfang's body, and a faint burning pain began to appear on her body. The figure did retreat instantly, widening the distance between him and Li Hanfang. His eyes showed surprise again, and the corner of his mouth raised an interesting smile. Li Hanfang broke free from the wall. His scarlet Sharingan eyes revealed coldness and evil, and there was no other expression on his face other than indifference. The moment he felt the opponent's murderous intent, Li Hanfang knew that he had to fight tooth and nail. Even if he was not his opponent, he would still have to hurt the opponent with all his strength, even if it only hurt his clothes. Holding the handle of the knife with his right hand, he gently stroked the blade with his left hand, closing his eyes slightly and thinking silently in his heart. Please, blade like fire. His eyes suddenly opened, their eyes were scarlet red, the three black magatama were spinning crazily, and cold words came out of his mouth. Everything in the world will turn into ashes. The blade will flow like fire. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe. Boom. The spiritual energy all over the body began to pour into Liubian Ruahuo's hands at an extremely fast speed. The sea of energy in his body was consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, the surrounding temperature began to rise suddenly. The blade of the Liubian Ruahuo instantly turned into a flame burning with terrifying heat, and the spiritual energy was converted into a strong spiritual pressure through the knife in his hand, covering the enchanting woman's body. Holding the blade like fire in his hand, Li Hanfang could clearly feel this power that was powerful enough to destroy everything. At the same time, he could also feel the pain coming from all parts of his body. His face showed a ferocious look, and the flames on the blade suddenly surged. Chang Guo Yan Shang. Boom. The flames released by the blade roared like a huge palm and instantly enveloped the enchanting woman. The surrounding buildings instantly turned into magma under the terrifying high temperature. Fortunately, Li Hanfang's current strength was still too weak. The flames only covered an area of 10 meters in diameter around the enchanting woman. The temperature was far from reaching the terrifying high temperature of 6,000 degrees, and the scope of damage was limited. If this is taken to the extreme, half of the base city may be exposed to this terrifying high temperature. Snap! Li Hanfang half knelt on the ground in an instant. The scarlet red in his eyes had dissipated, and his whole body was soaked in cold sweat. His body was trembling slightly. Just one move had drained all the spiritual energy from his body and put a great burden on his body. The level of this power is too high, and he cannot use it at will at this moment. Moreover, he has not really gained the recognition of Lu Ren Ruohuo, and the power he can exert when forcibly unlocking it is also very limited. But enough. A smile appeared on Li Hanfang's face. The reason why he chose to use Chengguo Yansheng instead of the more lethal Songming was because he knew that with his strength, he could not really hurt the opponent, so he could only choose to drag it out. Live with each other for a while. He knew that many tutors from colleges and universities came for him at today's admissions meeting, and the fat man who left had probably already informed the school's senior management. As soon as this level of power appeared, someone would probably rush over soon. So when he can't use Blazing Hell at all, using Chengguo Yansheng to trap the opponent is a better choice. The Rukin Ruahuo in his hand has returned to a shallow strike state, and there is a whirring movement in the area covered by the flames. It seems that the opponent is trying to force a breakthrough. Li Hanfang's eyes narrowed, and he knew that without the maintenance of spiritual energy, this fire domain would not be able to trap the opponent for long. At this moment, dozens of powerful auras came, and in just a moment 12 figures appeared around them. Almost at the same time, the city walls slowly disappeared, revealing the enchanting woman inside. At this time, the other party's red coat had disappeared, and there was still a wisp of flame swaying on one of the high heels. Li Hanfang grinned immediately when he saw this scene, and then sat down on the ground. He hurt his clothes, not to mention his shoes. The aura of everyone pressed towards the enchanting woman almost without thinking, but when everyone saw the other person's appearance clearly, the aura on her body suddenly stagnated. Why is it her? This idea came up almost at the same time, and then as if he understood something, his eyes fell on Li Hanfang. Li Hanfang was slightly startled when he saw everyone's expressions. Do they know each other? His eyes swept over everyone and found that everyone wore a special badge on their chest. This should be the identity badge of the university, and the vice president is also here. These people are undoubtedly the admissions tutors of the university. Then he saw that the enchanting woman actually took out a badge and pinned it on the black chest. Li Hanfang clearly saw a magic word engraved on it. The enchanting woman looked at Li Hanfang with a smile on her face and gave him a thumbs up. Then she pointed to the badge on her chest. Her expression seemed to say to him, "You hurt my clothes, I will keep my promise and tell you my identity." Li Hanfang, who was sitting on the ground, immediately had black lines all over his head, and the corners of his mouth twitched fiercely. Today is June 19th, which is the day when the martial arts examination list is announced, and it is also the day of the college admissions meeting. SH Base City Number 1 Middle School is currently gathering all the martial arts examination students in the school, waiting for the admission meeting to begin with expressions ranging from excitement to frustration. Soon, under the organization of the teaching director Zhang Yuanfang, the candidates got their score rankings and the admission conditions of major universities, and then began to apply for their favorite universities according to the conditions. Li Hanfang was currently in a spacious conference room. In addition to a number of admissions tutors and principals from other universities, Murong Qingying, who was third on the freshman list, was also among them. After Li Hanfang knew the identity of the enchanting woman, he basically guessed what was going on. Damn it, this woman really came to play with him, which made him speechless. The others naturally knew what was going on as soon as they saw the woman. They just wanted to contact Li Hanfang in advance and test her strength, but they all had a tacit understanding and did not tell the truth. The woman also personally fed Li Hanfang a special recovery pill, which allowed Li Hanfang's body and spiritual energy to recover quickly, and then brought him into the conference room. When he came here, Murong Qingying was already sitting here. Classmate Li Hanfang, I am the instructor of Jingwu Chaofan Academy who is here to recruit students this time. We sincerely invite you to join our school. You should know that among the Four Kings Academy, our Jingwu Academy has always been the #1 academy. Moreover, we sincerely invite you to join our school. Okay, Lao Sha, you Jingwu have so many talents, how many resources can you devote to Han Feng? Don't delay their development. Before the Beijing martial arts instructor named Lao Sha finished speaking, he was interrupted by another man. The man had a badge with the word, Shan, engraved on his chest, and then he said to Li Hanfang. Classmate Han Feng, when choosing a school, you don't just look at the rankings. You have to choose a suitable college that will help you more. For example, our Shancheng College. We will definitely have more resources for you than Jingwu. You can pull me down. You have been ranked at the bottom for several years. How many resources do you have? Other good seedlings don't need to practice. How many resources can you use? A man with the word, Jin, on his chest interrupted. Instructor Yamashiro seemed unconvinced and retorted. When Li Hanfang comes to our school, this year's ranking will change. Naturally, most of the resource allocation will fall on Han Feng. The man from Jinggu College had a sneer on his face. Aren't you trying to make a big deal out of it? If the ranking doesn't change, wouldn't it mean nothing? Classmate Li Hanfang, you should consider our school. Our school can definitely help you. Classmate Han Feng, Seeing that everyone in the conference room was almost quarreling, Li Hanfang did not interrupt. The more they quarreled, the better for him, even though he had already decided to go to the Magic Martial Arts Academy. But the other party doesn't know that in this case, in order to increase the price in their hands, they will definitely promise Li Hanfang some resources and increase the price to each other. Mo Wu will naturally increase the price in order to win over Li Hanfang. The arguments in the conference room began to get louder and louder, and then they gradually started to get into a fight. This left the two principals of number 1 middle school speechless. You are tutors from the Four Kings Academy and the famous Kiwei School. Can you have some quality? Don't act like a shrew and scold the public. Li Xingwu was helpless, but no matter how helpless he was, he did not dare to say these words to his face. He could only curse in his heart. Then he glanced at Ozan from the corner of his eye and found that the other party was eating melon seeds as if nothing had happened. He had no intention of making a sound. Nang said helplessly. Ahem, please calm down first. Halfway through his words, Li Xingwu's face darkened when he realized that no one had noticed him at all and was still arguing among themselves. Everyone. The spiritual energy surged and the powerful voice made the venue instantly quiet. Everyone's eyes turned to Li Xingwu. He felt a little proud in his heart. If the tiger doesn't show its power, you will be regarded as a sick cat, right? Just about to speak. Old man Li, why are you shouting so loudly? Are you looking for a beating? At this time, the instructor from Shancheng said something directly, which made Li Xingwu's mouth twitch violently. He glanced at Ozan again and found that the other person was still eating melon seeds. He could only pull an ugly look on his face. Said with a smile. Everyone, it's useless for you to argue here. It won't produce any results at all. Why don't you ask classmate Li Hanfeng what he means first? After hearing the words, everyone pondered for a long time and felt that it made sense. Then they all looked at Li Hanfeng, with questions in their eyes. Li Hanfeng, who was watching a movie with Murong Qingying, saw everyone looking at them and knew that he couldn't hide away. He could only pretend to lower his head and think for a moment, then looked at Murong Qingying beside him and asked. Qingying, which college are you going to? I can't care about that much at this time, so let's shift our attention first. When Li Hanfeng asked like this, she undoubtedly sent a signal to everyone that which school she would go to, I would focus on that school. Everyone's attention turned to Murong Qingying again. They all knew the identity and background of the other party. The other party's family had probably made a decision long ago. They did not try to fight for it, but just waited for the other party's answer. Murong Qingying turned to look at Li Hanfeng. Her eyes were very cold, and she didn't quite understand Li Hanfeng's intention. The two looked at each other for a moment, and the former's cold voice sounded. I haven't decided yet. Think about it again. When everyone heard this, the corners of their mouths twitched. Do you think we are fools? Have not decided yet. You, a person from the Magic Martial Arts base city, have long decided to go to the Magic Martial Arts Academy for the development of your family, right? Consider a hammer. Li Hanfeng was overjoyed. What a great job. Murong, the school beauty. Then he asked with a tangled look on his face. Dear mentors, I know that the school represented by each of you here is a holy place for cultivating talents in Longguo. No matter which school I join, it is an honor for me. But, it's impossible for me to join 11 schools at the same time, right? I'm a commoner and my family doesn't have any training resources. It's not easy to get to this point. I really lack training resources now. How about this? How about you give your treatment and I think about it carefully? The tutors fell into thinking after hearing this. Li Hanfeng's words were very skillful. First, he pulled Murong Qingying out to divert his attention, showing that he had not chosen a lucky school. Then, while elevating the status of the teachers, he lowered his own posture, saying that he was just a poor student with no family support behind him and a shortage of cultivation resources. This will create a feeling that everyone here is a holy place for nurturing talents, and I will give priority to whoever offers the best treatment. Not only did he express his needs without appearing too market-oriented, but his words were also useful to everyone. Who here is not an old fox in society? After thinking for a while, he understood what Li Hanfeng was thinking, but he was not angry either. Instead, he found it to his liking, because they originally thought the same way. It was normal for the school with the best salary to go to that school. After a moment of silence, Jingwu's mentor spoke first. Jingwu Academy will provide you with all the training resources before your junior year, unconditional access to the secret realm of training 3 times a year, the privilege of 20% off internal exchange of resources, and the best instructors to guide you in your training, and before you break through to the high level you don't have to go to the space battlefield. After saying that, he was very confident. It would be difficult for other academies besides Jingwu to offer such conditions. After all, they were not only training Li Hanfeng. Sure enough, everyone was a little silent after hearing this condition. They felt that it was very slim to get better treatment than this condition. If the conditions were the same, the probability of choosing the first Jingwu would definitely be high. Even Li Hanfang was slightly surprised. After 2 years of training resources, he still didn't know what the secret realm was, but it was probably not simple, and he could enjoy a 20% discount on internal resources without taking risks. It was a big deal. Seeing everyone's faces, Li Hanfang knew that this salary was probably very high. It was estimated that no one could give a higher salary. He suddenly panicked. He had promised to go to Mowu. If Mowu didn't offer the price, he would what to do. Seeing that no one was speaking, Jingwu's instructor put a smile on his face and said, "Classmate Li Hanfang, what do you think?" Wait. This is when the enchanting woman who had been silent suddenly interrupted the other party's words, then looked at Li Hanfang with a smile and said, "We Mowu will provide you with all the spiritual stones for cultivation before you can break through to the extraordinary realm. The rest are the same as Jingwu." After a pause, she continued to say with a smile, "Although the quota in the secret realm is very precious, you don't need to give it at all because of your strength. You can get it yourself, and the mentor. Believe me, the mentor of Mowu will not be worse than Jingwu, but on the space battlefield, you are certain I will go there, and going there will also be helpful to improve your strength. That is to say, apart from the training resources and discount privileges, the rest are actually dispensable to you. You are very strong, but your shortcomings are also obvious. We have fought before, and I know your weaknesses. I can personally teach you how to become stronger." The woman exuded a strong sense of confidence as she spoke her last words. Jingwu's instructor, however, remained calm. Seriously speaking, the salary offered by him was not as valuable as his. The 2 years of training resources were not only spiritual stones, but also other precious resources to assist training. Lingxi alone cannot break through to the extraordinary realm. But Li Hanfang secretly breathed a sigh of relief and finally spoke, and the conditions he gave were not much worse than those of Jingwu. Moreover, the other party seems to have strong confidence in teaching students, and no one around the tutors raised any questions. It seems that this woman is not simple. Although he was very unhappy with this woman, he had already promised Zhang Xinren that she would go to Mowu, and he was unwilling to break the agreement for this trivial matter. As for asking her to teach him how to become stronger, it's a no-brainer. When she becomes stronger, she will be beaten. Having made a decision in his heart, he turned to look at Murong Qingying and asked softly, "Qingying, have you thought about it?" Murong Qingying looked at Li Hanfang again for a moment, then her lips parted softly and said, "Well, I decided to go to the Magic Martial Arts Academy." Hearing this, Li Hanfang lowered his eyebrows in deep thought, with a tangled expression on his face. After a long time, he said softly, "Then I'll go to the Magic Martial Arts Academy too." The corners of Jingwu instructor's mouth twitched slightly. Let us congratulate Li Hanfang for winning this year's martial arts examination, ranking first in the national freshman list, and also being the top scorer in the martial arts examination in our base city. Wow! There was a noise in the square, fierce applause mixed with noisy discussions, making the square of number 1 middle school like a ignited explosive barrel, with a roar like a dragon. Let us give warm applause again and invite classmate Li Hanfang to come to the stage to give a speech. As soon as Zhang Yuanfang finished speaking, more intense applause broke out in the audience. Then Li Hanfang slowly walked onto the stage amidst thunderous applause, with a very calm expression on his face. It would look even more powerful if no one could see the hand in the pocket clenching hard. It would be better for me to give a passionate speech than to fight with aliens. Li Hanfang muttered to himself and walked onto the stage with a somewhat unnatural pace. After a few minutes of unsatisfactory official speeches, he hurriedly left the stage. Soon the results of the martial arts test were announced throughout the Dragon Kingdom, and the ones who received the most attention were naturally the 100 people on the freshman list. The name Li Hanfang also appeared in the public eye for the first time. The top scorer in the national martial arts examination and the top spot on the freshman list was actually taken by a commoner with no power behind him. This result is shocking to everyone. The eyes of many influential people are flashing, considering the possibility of wooing the other party, and at the same time, they have begun to arrange manpower to make contact. In just half a day, Li Hanfeng's information files had been pulled out, but they were all basic information, such as talents and abilities, which had been encrypted and blocked and were not accessible to ordinary people. And Li Hanfeng, who had left the school, had appeared in Lingbao Pavilion and was having a long chat with Deacon Hao over tea. At this time, the smile on Deacon Hao's face became even brighter, and he was called brother, one after another. Deacon Hao was very grateful for his decision at the moment. He never expected that a talented young man he had befriended on a whim at that time would now become the #1 scholar in the martial arts examination. The future achievements of the other party are definitely something he needs to look up to. As long as he maintains this relationship with the other party, he might be able to use the other party's momentum to climb up in the future. Brother Hao, I'm here to harass you mainly because I want to get some information from you. Li Hanfeng went straight to the point and stated his purpose. Brother, how much do you know about Zhou Zonghai's Zhou family? Deacon Hao's eyes flickered when he heard this. He naturally knew about the grievances between Li Hanfeng and the Zhou family. Was he going to take action against the other party? After pondering for a moment, he thought for a while before speaking in a low voice. Brother Han Feng, I do know something about the Zhou family. The other party is considered a big force in SH Base City. The most important thing is that they have the Kewu building behind them. Brother, you don't have to worry about this. You just need to tell me the number of experts and strength level of the other party. There is no need to worry about the Kewu building. Li Hanfeng interrupted, his voice was very calm. Deacon Hao's heart moved when he heard this. It seemed that he had already asked someone to say hello to the Kewu building. This brother Han Feng is really not an ordinary person. At the same time, I sighed in my heart, it seems that the Zhou family is in doom this time. Since I have already made arrangements, I won't ask any more questions. After a short pause, he continued. Zhou Zonghai, the head of the Zhou family, has peak 6th level strength. His talent is B-level transformation. He also has a 5th level old butler with unknown talents. He also has 3 shadow guards under him. The captains are all mid-level transcendent. However, these are weak sky replicators. Except for the leader of the shadow guards, there is nothing to fear. As long as you are careful not to be besieged, you will be fine. Just pay attention to Zhou Zonghai and the old butler, plus a shadow guard commander. This is all I know, but the other party must be hiding some masters secretly, so you have to be careful. Without mobilizing the forces of Kewu Tower, these are almost all the forces that Zhou Jiaming can use. Li Hanfeng listened silently, then lowered his head slightly and fell into deep thought. The shadow guards should be the men in black who besieged me last time. 2 of the mid-level captains have actually died. The remaining one is probably the commander, right? In addition, the opponent also has 2 mid-level transcendental beings, among whom Zhou Zonghai is still at the peak of the 6th level, which is a bit tricky. Li Hanfeng's eyes flickered. If he attacked forcefully, he would be besieged by 3 mid-level extraordinaries and at least 23rd level peaks. Not to mention that we still don't know how much strength the other party has hidden secretly. It seems that we can only do it step by step. After thinking for a long time, Li Hanfeng spoke softly. Brother, don't you know where the other party's lair is? Upon hearing this, Deacon Hao slowly drank the tea in the cup, and then leaned over to Li Hanfeng's ear. After whispering an address, he continued to pour tea as if nothing had happened. After Li Hanfeng silently wrote down the address, he stood up and left. Thank you for letting me know, brother. I won't bother you if I have something else to do. Farewell. Brother Han Feng, wait a minute. Li Hanfeng was about to leave when he was stopped by Deacon Hao and turned to look at him with some confusion. Brother, do you need manpower? Brother, I have been operating in SH Base City for so many years, and I still have some manpower. Li Hanfeng's eyes moved slightly when he heard this, then he shook his head slightly and said. Thank you for your kindness, brother, but this is a personal grudge between me and the other party, so please don't get involved. Although Li Hanfeng does need someone to share the pressure, favors are the hardest to return. Providing information and directly helping are 2 different concepts. Li Hanfeng didn't want to owe the other party this favor, and he felt that he could handle it by himself, but it would just take some time. Deacon Hao nodded, no surprise, got up and escorted Li Hanfeng out of Lingbao Pavilion with a smile on his face, and emphasized something during the process. The Zhou family must still have a lot of strength hidden in it. Don't be brave, brother. If something cannot be done, you must talk to me. I will definitely try my best to help you. Li Hanfang nodded in agreement, then turned and walked towards home. Now that we know the Zhou family's address and approximate strength, it's time to plan how to destroy the opponent. When Li Hanfang returned home, the sky had darkened. He took a hot bath first, and then cooked a bowl to fill his stomach. Then Li Hanfang returned to the bedroom, where there were two shadow clones practicing with their eyes closed. He sat cross-legged, placed Lu Ren Ruohuo on his knees, and started breathing. He had a vague feeling of a breakthrough during the secret realm assessment. If nothing else goes wrong, he should be able to break through to a small level tonight. Spiritual energy kept gathering in the bedroom. With the three Li Hanfangs using breathing techniques at the same time, the speed of spiritual energy gathering doubled. Spiritual energy rushes into the body through the mouth, nose and pores, and then turns into a stream of spiritual energy and sinks into the sea of qi. The sea of qi in his body began to rotate slowly, and the speed became faster and faster. When it reached a certain critical value, Li Hanfang opened his eyes. Bang bang. The two shadow clones immediately turned into white smoke and disappeared. At the same time, a strong spiritual energy suddenly emerged from Li Hanfang's body, pouring into the sea of qi almost instantly. Kaka. The high-speed rotating air sea suddenly made a clicking sound, as if a layer of the sea dam was washed away, making the entire air sea larger. A bright light flashed in his eyes, and Li Hanfang exhaled a breath of turbidity. Finally a breakthrough. Li Hanfang clenched his fists and felt the state of his body. With a thought, Li Hanfang checked his personal panel. Name: Li Hanfang. Race: human. Age: 17. Talents: Breath of Thunder, 3 Magatama Sharingan. Level: Extraordinary 4th level intermediate. Skills: Breath of Thunder, 4 Swords, Shadow Clone Technique, Fire Release, High Fireball Technique, High Fire Extinguishing, Substitution Technique, Transformation Technique, Psychic Technique, Rashomon, Thunder Release, Chidori, Genjutsu, Magical Shackles and the Art of Darkness. Task: None. Li Hanfang looked at the information above and nodded slightly. From the time he awakened his talent to now, his strength has undergone earth-shaking changes. Even his name has spread in the Dragon Kingdom, and he is a well-known martial arts champion. The last two illusions were the result of Li Hanfang's struggle on the last night in the secret realm. All 3 Magatama Sharingan eyes were opened, so how could he do without 2 illusions? Li Hanfang stood up and looked out the window at the night, thinking slightly. It's still early, so we have to wait until later to act. Li Hanfang has decided to go to Zhou's house tonight to explore the truth. Knowing that he has become the top scholar in the martial arts examination, the other party will definitely prevent him from taking revenge. Therefore, he must take action before the opponent is ready to take measures. It is best to kill the opponent's 2 mid-level extraordinaries, so that his pressure will be much less. Li Hanfang sat down cross-legged again, gently stroked the Liubianruahuo in his hand, and began to meditate on the sword meditation. While communicating with Lu Ren Ruohuo, I was also waiting for the night. At this time, inside the Zhou family's residence in the suburbs. Zhou Xian was pacing back and forth in the room, not thinking about practicing at all. Ever since he learned that Li Hanfang had become the top scholar in the martial arts exam, his heart began to be filled with layers of fear. The moment he met Li Hanfang's eyes in the square, he knew that the other person would definitely not let him go. He has been walking in the room for a day, but he still hasn't waited for his father to call him. Exaggerated by the fear and uneasiness, he finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Pushing open the door, Zhou Xian hurriedly ran towards Zhou Zonghai's study. Bang! The study room was pushed open with great force, and Zhou Zonghai's face suddenly sank as he was sitting on the chair. Father, what should we do now? Zhou Xian's voice was very anxious, with a hint of crying, as if he was about to cry at the next moment. Zhou Zonghai quickly calmed down the expression on his face, put down the book in his hand, and looked at Zhou Xian calmly. Didn't I tell you? Don't be impatient when things happen. How can I trust you to hand over the family business to you like this? Also, haven't I already said it? I already have arrangements with Li Hanfang. How many times do you want me to repeat it? There was a hint of hatred in his voice, as if he was very dissatisfied with Zhou Xian's performance. When Zhou Xian heard his father say this, the fear in his heart was slightly dissipated, but he still said uneasily, "Father, he is now the top scorer in the martial arts examination and the first on the freshman list. Can we touch him? He must be thinking about how to retaliate against us now. How should we respond?" Zhou Zonghai raised his eyebrows. He was also troubled by the fact that Li Hanfeng became the top pick in the martial arts examination. This made the chips in his hand much lighter. But he still said to Zhou Xian seriously, "Why are you panicking? So what if I get the top score in the college entrance examination? He is just a 4th level extraordinary now. Isn't it easy for me to kill him? I have already made arrangements. As long as he dares to cause trouble, I don't know how he died." When the top scorer in the college entrance examination dies in a foreign assassination, what does it have to do with us? Okay, if you have nothing else to do, you can go out first, I have something to do. After Zhou Xian listened to Zhou Zonghai's words, although most of the fear in his heart had dissipated, he was still a little uneasy. He wanted to say something more, but was stopped by Zhou Zonghai's look. He could only suppress his uneasiness and exit the room. After Zhou Xian left, Zhou Zonghai let out a heavy breath. He was just trying to stabilize his silly son, but his heart was full of uneasiness at the moment. Where does he have any family property for the other party to inherit? Even my life may not be saved. Originally, he wanted to use his savings over the years as a bargaining chip to negotiate with Li Hanfeng, and then push his son out to let the other party vent his anger. With the opponent's current strength, he has no ability to destroy his entire Zhou family. As long as he settles this grudge before he grows up, then he can develop again in the future, and his strength lies here. Don't worry about livelihood at all. Who would have thought that Li Hanfeng actually won the top prize in the martial arts examination? Now there are a lot of people trying to win over each other, and the chips in his hand are probably a bit light. Call. After exhaling a breath, Zhou Zonghai's expression began to change. In the end, his face was so gloomy that it almost dripped with water, and his eyes revealed a fierce light. "I hope you won't kill them all, otherwise you will have to die and the net will be broken. In the worst case, if I kill you, I will escape from the base city and live incognito." Zhou Zonghai, who was still thinking secretly, didn't know that Li Hanfeng was already on his way to his home at this time. "And I have no intention of talking to him." Li Hanfeng walked in the quiet night. Because it was a suburb, the nearby buildings were very far apart, and no one would be walking around during this time. It's 12 o'clock in the morning, it's a dark, windy, murderous night. "Zhou Zonghai, I'm here to collect debts." Li Hanfeng's steps began to quicken, like a black ghost, silently walking through the shadow of the building. Soon, Li Hanfeng arrived in front of a luxurious mansion. Hidden in the shadow behind the tree, Li Hanfeng observed the building in front of him, his scarlet Sharingan constantly scanning the guards in the house. There is a team of shadow guards patrolling near the door. The one on the balcony on the 2nd floor of BI is probably the commander, right? He has peak 4th level strength, and the opponent is not a heavenly reverend. Li Hanfeng's eyes flashed, thinking about how to sneak inside and find out where the opponent's mid-level extraordinaries were distributed. A direct force attack will definitely not work. The Shadow Guard commander will definitely find something wrong. It's not possible to directly attack the Shadow Guard commander. Killing a peak mid-level person is a bit loud, and Zhou Zonghai will definitely notice it. After pondering for a long time, Li Hanfeng thought of a way and began to quickly form seals with his hands. "What are you doing here?" A sexy and magnetic female voice sounded from behind, startling Li Hanfeng, who was about to use the shadow clone technique. Turning around quickly, the 3 Magatama Sharingan spinning crazily emitted scarlet light in the night. When he saw the person clearly, Li Hanfeng's pupils suddenly shrank. His eyes changed from shock to confusion, and finally Li Hanfeng's eyes turned into dead fish eyes when he looked at the other party. "Are you following me?" He didn't answer the other party's question, but asked in a calm tone. This person is none other than the enchanting woman from the demonic martial arts academy during the day, Lan Zhiro. Li Hanfeng had already learned the other party's name from the vice principal, and he was very confused as to why the other party followed him. "Don't talk nonsense. I just got off the phone with that precious student of mine. I originally wanted to see you for something serious. After a pause, Lan Zhiro raised her hand to tuck her slightly curly hair and continued. It turned out that you came here sneakily, as if you wanted to take action. What, do you have a grudge against the other party? As he spoke, he raised his chin and pointed in the direction of the villa. Li Hanfeng became even more confused after hearing this. Your precious student. Lan Zhirio's eyes flashed slightly. Yes, he is a very precious student. Okay, then what business do you have with me? The other party didn't want to say anything, so Li Hanfeng didn't continue to inquire, but continued to ask. Hearing this, the smile on Lan Zhirio's face became even more touching. Of course I'm here to do you good. While he was talking, a beautiful space ring appeared in his right hand, and he kept throwing it up in his hand. I came to you with sincerity, but you. What on earth do you want to sneak up here? Although you are not officially enrolled in school now, you are still considered a student of Mowu. As the instructor of Mowu, I still have the right to intervene, right? Li Hanfeng was slightly silent after hearing this, and said after a while. This is my privacy. Call out. Before he finished speaking, a space ring was shot at him. You need to declare your cultivation spirit stone after you enter school. This is my personal sincerity. Do you want to consider selling your privacy? Li Hanfeng caught the space ring and curled his lips. He said it was private, so how could he betray it casually? Teacher Lan, I think you may have some bad misunderstanding about me. As he spoke, he opened the space ring and checked it. After seeing clearly what was inside, Li Hanfeng swallowed the words behind him. Oh, you mean I misjudged you? Lan Zhiro looked at Li Hanfeng meaningfully and said. Silently putting away the space ring, he raised his head and looked at each other for a moment. Li Hanfeng suddenly grinned. You are really good at judging people. Hearing this, Lan Zhirio's red lips curved in a touching arc. That's pretty much it. Today I'm here to settle the grudges. Li Hanfeng briefly explained the matter, then looked at Lan Zhiro, waiting for the other party's answer. Unexpectedly, Lan Zhiro just nodded casually after listening, and then said. I have one more thing to come to you about. School will start early this year. Please report to the college on time on August 1st. After hesitating for a while, Lan Zhiro spoke again. You probably don't know what you will face when you enter college, and I can't tell you too much now. You just need to know that college is dangerous, so be prepared. Also, if you accept my things, remember to choose me as your tutor after you enroll. After saying that, she turned around and left, disappearing into the night. Li Hanfeng's eyes flickered slightly, and he heard that the other party meant that after entering college, he would face the real dangers of this world. I thought it was strange before. Whether it's the college entrance examination this year or the early start of school, it shows the eagerness of the Dragon Kingdom's senior officials. What happened? But Li Hanfeng soon got rid of the messy thoughts in his mind. These things were not his responsibility now. At present, the main thing is to deal with the Zhou family's affairs. Hand seals. The art of shadow clone. Bang. After a burst of white smoke, there was another Li Hanfeng in the field. Li Hanfeng looked at each other with the shadow clone, and formed a seal with his hands again. With a bang, Li Hanfeng's body turned directly into a big stone. The clone directly carried the stone and approached the opponent's other field. Call. Throwing the stone in his hand forcefully, the stone pushed away the air and flew straight towards one of the patrolling shadow guards. The direction and force of the clone's throw are very particular, deliberately giving the opponent a certain amount of room to dodge while ensuring the power of the stone, preventing the opponent from directly attacking the stone. Boom! The stone hit the ground and made a roar. A shadow guard who decided to avoid the attack quickly stood up and shouted. Enemy attack! Whoosh! The movement here directly attracted a large number of shadow guards, who turned into a black shadow and rushed towards the direction from which the stone flew. At this time, the shadow guard commander on the balcony on the second floor saw a figure ducking past behind a tree in another field. Immediately, the figure of the shadow guard leader disappeared from the spot, and appeared next to the shadow guards a moment later. Follow me. Whoosh! The shadow guard commander led a team of shadow guards and chased directly in the direction of Li Hanfeng's clone. Of course, these movements outside could not be hidden from Zhou Zonghai, who was at the peak of the 6th level. He raised his eyebrows. Pay the old man. Click. The door handle was turned and the door was pushed open. Mr. Fu walked into the study and bowed. "Housekeeper, what's going on outside?" Zhou Zonghai asked in a condensed voice. "Go home, master, there is a raid outside, Yingyi has already led people to chase him." Hearing this, Zhou Zonghai's face immediately sank. "Several people, there should only be one," Mr. Fu replied respectfully. Zhou Zonghai's pupils shrank slightly, coming so soon. Is the opponent planning to attack? Wrong. Considering the opponent's strength and current situation, if it was Li Hanfang, the opponent should want to disperse their combat power and then defeat them one by one. Thinking of this, Zhou Zonghai immediately said in a deep voice. "You should catch up with Yingyi immediately. If it's Li Hanfang, don't do anything yet. Just say that I want to talk to him and go there immediately." Yes. Mr. Fu heard the urgency in Zhou Zonghai's tone, so he immediately turned and left without further delay. Zhou Zonghai was left sitting there with a gloomy look on his face. At this time, in the courtyard of Bi, because of the attack just now, the remaining shadow guards were on high alert to prevent possible attacks. Of course no one cares about the stones that fell in the courtyard. When Mr. Fu left and there were no guards around to pay attention, the stone that fell in the courtyard turned into Li Hanfang with a bang. He quickly formed seals with his hands, and another shadow clone appeared on the spot. Then the clone took over the work of the main body and turned into a stone to take the place of the main body. After doing all this, Li Hanfang's figure disappeared into the shadow of other buildings. Only the occasional flash of scarlet light was observing the position distribution of each shadow guard. I really didn't expect that the two mid-levels have chased them out. Now there is still a shadow guard and Zhou Zonghai here, right? Li Hanfang's eyes flashed, his Sharingan kept turning on the 10 shadow guards, his body slowly leaned forward, and his right hand climbed onto the handle of the blade like fire. Then let's get rid of these annoying guys first. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.